We're snorting cap rates and shooting up cash flow here at Deal Junkies. Welcome back to Deal Junkies. I'm Gabe Johansson here in the studio today with none other than Dane McKinney and Mike Nuss, the illustrious crew. Trevor is still at Chipotle. We love you, Trevor. We wish you were here. I want to give a shout out before we start to Skyline Builders, Mark Gallegos and his team at Skyline Builders. Just some of the greatest people I've ever had the pleasure of working with. We had a ribbon cutting yesterday in Astoria. Our 66-unit project that we took control of in March is finished. We have occupancy on 3 of 4 buildings. We're moving 6 tenants in this weekend. So special day yesterday. We all met up there. Dane was up there, and the mayor came, and we got to have a little celebration, and it was really fun. But Mark saved our bacon. Man, we got ourselves into a bit of a pickle on that, and Mark stepped in, helped us find new financing, brought in the crews to finish it. We built a new partnership team, and now Mark will be an owner of that project with us. But boy, we've been involved in that project for 4.5 years. The prior developer who had it worked on it for 3 years before we got there. So this is something I told Dane yesterday when we were at lunch. I said, you were in high school when this project originally started, and we finished it. We finished it.
Popping pimples.
So we're excited. And
dude. I had good skin then and now. Okay.
I can't say enough nice things about Mark or his team. Actually, Dane Lund came in, and he was the project lead, and Sam at Skyline Builders. These guys they were awesome. Like I don't think I ever want to work with another builder, to be honest. Like these guys they were on time, under budget, did what they said they were going to do, sent us updates, kept us in the loop. And it's just amazing when that can happen.
When a builder is an investor.
I think that helps.
How much better?
I think they've done projects where they were not invested in, and they have the same success rate.
It's still just their
mentality that they're owners and they're building for themselves. It's kind of the same thought process.
I mean, that's what you bring to brokerage, right?
I want brokers that got skin in the game, because I just feel like you do a better job. So, anyway, shout out to. We'll say this episode's brought to you by Skyline Builders. We want to talk about deals on this episode. And Mike just loves to hog the mic. I think that's how you got the name, Mike.
Mike.
No, I'm just doing deals
MIC?
while you guys aren't, because you guys are in the bigger world and just slower transaction volume.
Yeah, we're one big deal, guys. You're a bunch of little deals.
No, I'm doing a big one.
I just had to throw that out there.
I'm actually...
Tell us about your big deal. Mike's big deal.
Well, this purchase will be the largest purchase of my life.
Have we heard about this purchase?
Yeah, it's the care facility. So close.
Oh, that's right.
Dude, you're almost done?
We're not going to... We finalized our closing date this week.
When is it?
This week?
October 18th. We set the closing date this week.
I seriously.
But the deal isn't negotiated yet.
How are you going to close it that quick? It's seller carry.
Yeah. The loan's done. The appraisal's done. We can bitch about the appraiser.
Was it a bad
Mike's
appraisal?
favorite.
Yeah, just they're so dumb. Like, okay. We'll start with the appraisal. This was so BS, right? So it's a senior care facility, 52 beds, really 50. When they lose their license, it goes down to fewer. I'm converting it to a mental health facility. The appraisal was ordered immediately when we went into escrow. Senior care facility, hadn't changed the plan. And it was a $3,200 fee, and I paid the $3,200 fee. And then, okay, now I put it on hold. Now we have the plan. Go back to the appraiser. Hey, here's what I need you to do. I don't know anything about this asset class. I really need to lean on you from a highest and best use standpoint. What are these things really worth? I want you to do your job and come through for me. He's like, oh yeah, well, here's what we can do. We'll change instead of doing a care facility, we'll do it as a 20-bed mental health care facility. But, it's more complicated. You need to give me $1,000 more. Fine, I'll give you $1,000 more. And then he gets into it. He sets a date. We give him a budget, and we get to the end date where it's supposed to be due. And he's like, hey, I haven't had that $1,000. My bad. I forgot to wire it. So I wire him the money, and 3 days later, still don't have the report. I don't have the $1,000. Dude, I had to send him an email because the wire was taking a few days because of the banking relationship. I'm like, look, dude, I paid off $20 million of loans to this lender. You're getting, just give me the damn appraisal.
You're going to get paid.
You're going to get paid, right? So the appraisal, a 50-bed senior care facility.
Did he give you the $1,000 back?
I don't even fucking care.
Does that make it worth more or less?
No, this is the back end valuation. So it's $300,000 above my purchase price, but $300,000 less than what my takeout loan's going to be at the back end. So he just completely screwed the pooch. Like, he gave me $279 per bed of net income, which is on 50 what?
12, per month?
$12,000. Yeah, so $12,000 a month of income. The lease I'm signing is $25,000 a month of income. So it's like, what's that?
He's saying it's going to bleed.
No, he valued it at an NOI of $12,000 a year. My NOI is going to be significantly higher. Yeah. So like, I'm not worried about it. But it's a part of it. Getting the lease negotiated. So we have the LOI in agreement. Insurance is always a bitch. So what I'm doing, I'm trying to get everything done at the same time. So I have to appease the seller. I have to communicate with him. How are you vacating the building? When's our closing date? We're going to, the appraisal, we're going to need to talk about some things. Dealing with the tenant, trying to negotiate a rate that I think is going to be good for me, but I don't even know if it's good for me because we still don't have an insurance quote. Getting an appraisal, I don't know if the appraisal is going to work, and I don't know how that may change the lending terms that I've negotiated in first position with my lender. So I'm trying to land all these planes right at the same time. Appraisal came in last week, had a great call with the lender, actually got him to lower my down payment that increased the liquidity that I had in my cash flow model. Super helpful there. Sent the LOI over to the tenant. They didn't even, now I'm mad because I should have asked for more because they just like, yeah, it looks good. Let's go.
They're going to master lease the whole thing?
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah. And then we phase it in. So we have a three-phase construction plan. We have a 3-phase move-in plan. So because they have to ramp up operations to expand into the building. So they're on board. They're really excited. The lender's really excited. And then the last piece is figuring out insurance so I can kind of get it wrapped up, and then getting the seller comfortable to really start vacating the tenants and figuring that part out. So the best part, though, is what I need is because the seller is a huge participant in this transaction. And what kind of went into my brain after talking to him this week is forget seller financing because you guys are going to love this. Seller financing is great. You have to bring a lot to the table for seller financing. What you want is seller participation. You want them participating the way they finance you, right? So like the types of deals that you guys are talking about, like the self-help deals, that's essentially what he's doing is he's bringing equity in the form of subordinate debt. And then you just have the conversation with him, which is, look, my costs are up. My appraisal's low. The lease rate's going to be like all this. Insurance is higher, and then you communicate with them, which is, look, I'm going to need some reasonable changes to what we agreed upon. And he's like, great, I really look forward to these reasonable changes. I want to work with you. And you talk about it in a form of partnership. And when you use the right words, then they start copying you.
Yeah. You followed our rule number 1 is keep the seller in the deal.
Absolutely.
And when you guys are both on the same side of the table, it's much easier to work together because he wants you to succeed because that's also his success. Yeah.
And when you can, so like second position, we're trained to believe that is a risky position to be in, which it is. It's riskier. But when you think about, okay, well, what does the seller need? And like in this scenario, they paid $300,000 for it. He just wants out. He doesn't want. We're giving him $1 million down. He's getting a huge freaking check
right out of the gate.
Right? So immediately he's getting his basis out. He's getting some capital gains. He's more importantly getting rid of the problem. The other part of it is I have done more than show him significant level of competence through this process. And so when we start using words of like, what work, you're a partner in this deal, you're participating, you're helping me make this work, the little appraisal, the lender doesn't care because we can work in this way. And the exact word I used was success. We want to set this up for success. It needs to be successful for the tenant, successful for me, and successful for you. And he's like, yeah, I love our partnership. This is going to be successful for, he starts using my language, right? So from a negotiation standpoint, we mimic people, no, you want them mimicking you.
Yeah.
And so that conversation was just like the last piece this last week of, I feel really good. This thing's going to land. The capital partners are really freaking excited about it. Money's raised. So now it's just getting the lease, getting the insurance quote, and going to close.
Is he on second? You said you put him in second?
Yeah.
And the lender was okay with that?
Yep. Yeah. So lender's in first, and it's Dane, hard money lender. So I'll have to take them out, and we'll have to switch it to a self-help type structure on the refinance.
Where you move the seller off title.
Yeah. So we'll move them off title, get the refinance.
I like it.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
What's up, Deal Junkies? This is Trevor. I just wanted to let you know that we want to help you do deals. Because of that, we put a link in the description of this podcast episode where you can click it and book a call and talk to us. Go ahead and click that link, and let's talk about some deals that you want to do or you are doing currently.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm
Can
really
you share
excited about
numbers on it.
Yeah, well, so here's how I kind of have it modeled out. We need $500,000 of equity, and what I really wanted to do is not go more than $500,000 in equity. That's really what I wanted, and this is brand new for me. I spent 15 hours on spreadsheets. Dude, thank God for Adderall. Whoa. I haven't worked this hard in so long. So long.
This is what gives you focus.
Do you know how many times I looked up? I'm like, shit, it's 2:30 in the morning. I haven't gone to bed after 10 o'clock. I haven't worked past 8 in a long time.
What time are you waking up?
I wake up at 5:30 or 5. Or...
Ew, dude.
Well, when you take Adderall and stay up till 2:30, you wake up at 7. That is problematic.
So you love the deal and you're not sleeping in it.
So building out new spreadsheets of, okay, how does the equity get flowed, and throwing in the cash flow portion of it. And that's kind of where negotiating with Dane's like, hey, 10% would be 267 down. Can you work with me there? He's like, we'll just do 210. And then that extra 50 grand of liquidity, because there's a little bit of a crunch there as we're getting through the end of construction. Because you pre-fund construction. We don't have the construction drawback yet to reimburse us. We don't have the tenant in back yet. And so like month 6, month 7, the liquidity gets a little low with 500 grand of equity. And I don't want to go ask for more equity. So just changing the terms with Dane gives us that extra 50 grand. And then like, so now how do you build out this model to, because I raise capital in a short period of time. It's different how I've ever done stuff. So it's different building an actual cash flow model into it. So the lenders, my partners, can see. That's never been a part of what I show lenders, because they're lenders, not partners. Right. So it was really fun to just see how this is actually going to flow, like the cash flow portion of it flowing. And as I'm building it, I always build things conservatively. So like the $25,000 a month rent, I've got it modeled at 18 because that's the first rent, and then it goes up to 25 before we're done with construction. Well, I have it as 18 through the entire construction phase. And then like on the refinance phase, I have it at 22 a month instead of 25 a month. So I've got some fudge factor there. Like if insurance is 30 grand higher, I can cover that based on how I ran the conservative.
We call those airbags.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's just fun to build a model like that, because I build them into my brain, but I don't put them on paper. And that has been a really fun process. I feel like I'm significantly better at actually understanding the deal by modeling my brain on a paper.
So you had said before we started, you had talked about wanting to be sure you weren't being overconfident. What part are you doing the biggest deal you've ever done in an asset type you've ever done before? Are you taking any sort of pause and going like,
that's not
what do I not know?
That's not even where that statement came from.
Oh, it's a different deal.
It's a different deal. So just, the statement was like my ego. I got to watch out for my ego. I can feel it getting kind of overbuilt.
Big again?
Yeah. So when it's big, when your ego's getting big,
is that a weak ego or
a
strong
so you're
ego?
less aware. You're susceptible to more weakness. And so that by definition or extension is weakness. So I'm trying to be cognizant of that. But what that comes from is we just got another $2 million loan on a cottage cluster project. And the lender sent me an email. And so we got this one loan on a cottage cluster. And what this statement comes from is I'm building a cottage cluster partnership that I've been talking about for a long, long, long time through an extension of someone who wants to invest in it. And I haven't talked to the investor. There's a person in between us that's really gate guarding that conversation. I met that investor on some projects over the last weekend. So got physically in the field, now then started building a model around that. Okay, well, here's how we have our model from a build to sell model, changing it into a build to rent model. And then I'm building it out as a 75% loan to cost. I'm like, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. We got way better than 75% loan to cost on that last loan. So I go back and I look and I'm like, we're back up to 90% loan to cost, right? I was just so much figuring like global liquidity on that company that I didn't even look at that specific loan. So 90% cost, change that into the model, but I emailed the lender to verify. I'm like, hey, can I expect these terms going forward as I'm building out this model? He's like, dude, that's a model we put together just for the top tier builders in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, so you're a top tier.
I'm a top tier builder in the
Woo!
Pacific Northwest.
Congratulations.
And I'm not I'm not.
Did you frame that? Is it framed yet?
So you
I
get,
screenshotted it. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
how does that affect your model in terms of like, so your leverage is better. You get 15% more leverage than what you had originally modeled. So your returns just look that much better because you're not putting
Leverage
in,
returns. Yeah.
Yeah.
They double.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's,
Well, so
that's the power of leverage.
yeah. So think of it this way.
Love leverage.
The amount of okay, so now take it at the extension. So the 2 sites that I met the lender, so my partner and the gatekeeper is a partner in another project. So we've done partnerships before. So we have a relationship and he's a broker at my company. Meet him on site. Dude loves the project. Not an educated, sophisticated person. Really knows what he lives in Portland, wants to do the market, needs a developer partner, has the capital, doesn't really know what he's doing, but seeing it, go to an actual site of a seller we were talking to a year ago, who's now coming back to the market, saw the property. He's really excited about it. Started negotiating and actually got that offer accepted yesterday, and then building out this model for now this scenario. So go to the 90% loan to cost, the build to rent model. At 90% for this one project we're now escrowing, we need about $600,000 of liquidity. You start out with like 150, it gets to 250. You need to drop another 400 in at construction loan, and then you get it down to 250 before the refinance, and then potentially you're gonna have to leave some in after refinance. But
You're saying the equity you're parking, you're getting back out in phases?
yeah, you need it in phases because you have an entitlement phase.
Oh, you're putting equity in phases.
Putting equity in phases, and then you're pre-funding construction, and so you're getting some of that back before you refinance out.
In draws?
Yeah, draws, correct, right? So like you need to fund $100,000 and get reimbursed $100,000, depending on how you manage your draws. If you run the construction site the right way, you can do 30-day net billing, and then you're not having to float that. I don't want that in my model. But the difference is it's $380,000 of liquidity, right? So instead of doing the project for $600,000, you need $1 million to do the project, and so now you just do more. So it allows you to leverage and scale.
Good.
Good. It's good.
Good. Very nice. Great success.
You have comments about this?
No, it's good projects. Yeah, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hope the viewers followed. They'll let us know.
That's a lot of faith, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now the kind of the extension of the ego, right? Okay. So I've been talking about this forever. This is right up the alley from the appraiser, the highest best use. Learned so many lessons doing this. I feel like uniquely qualified is a word that's been used significantly, and then writing a business plan. So creating new spreadsheet models, staying up late for that, staying up late for a business plan, finding the partners, what are the strategies, what are the plays, and then you look at the amount of experience that I've got over the past 4 years. Dude, talk about PTSD and trauma and all that stuff. It uniquely qualified me to now have these conversations and then build out a model that builds in all of those risks, and then write a SWOT analysis, strength and weakness analysis, into the partnership. So it's like, if I hadn't gone through the past few years and had this conversation been sped up a year, I don't think the matching of the needs or the values to each other would really have been there. And so now what I'm seeing, okay, so the lender thinks I'm a top builder. Capital partners, like, I have no problem attracting capital. Why am I not a top tier builder?
Mm-hmm. And
so now it's okay, well then where do we then create that next relationship? So I've got a great partner, and he might be that partner, but instead of building 52 units over 3 years, we're talking about building 100 units in 18 months.
So is that sort of the transition that you're making? Is in
like,
you want to build more?
Yeah, so like, because it's just right up my alley. It's a frictionless movement forward. We already have the acquisition pipeline. We already have the entitlement process. We already have every single team member that we need, and they're not staff, they're vendors.
You've built the machine.
The machine has been built, the experience is there, and the wisdom, more importantly, the wisdom and how to execute.
Well, you as the visionary now have the experience that gives you a competitive edge over some of other competitors in the marketplace, just because of what you've been through.
Yeah, so like 3.5 years ago, as we went into this, I was really leaning on the experience and the vision of my builder partner. And through this process, I'm coming out of it like I have everything I need to then go be a top tier Pacific.
What's the end goal here? What are you trying to accomplish?
So it's building rentals. So it's a build for rent model. So what I've seen happen, in I know what not to do. I know where not to build. I know what to build. So I know what not to do. I know what to do.
Build in single family?
Yeah, and they're all detached, right? So we're replacing a housing product that in the rental market that has not been built. So single family housing in the rental market is deteriorating. It's not being added to because of the economics of housing or of construction and development. Well, cottage clusters allow you to do that. Because you can create enough equity. So if you get the land at the right price, you can create enough equity that you have your 30 to 35% equity at the back end. You can get your capital back out. The dollar per rent is very similar to apartments.
What does that mean? Rent per square foot?
Yeah, rent per square foot.
So what's it at?
What's that?
What's it at?
Like $3 a square foot. Not that. Yeah, yep,
Heavens.
$3 a square foot, 1,200 square foot.
Because these are detached buildings.
detached buildings.
Small.
Correct. They're a house.
$3,600.
You do them in the right. So to get a nice detached home in these neighborhoods, you're $3,000 a month or more. That's
Wow.
what it is.
We can build cottages.
Yeah, but your land down here is so much cheaper than what it is up there. And then
And
your
your rents,
entitlement.
you wouldn't get those rents here.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say
For
you could
single
give us land for free down here, and we wouldn't.
Well, and that's the thing is really to build this out, you have to get really good deals of rent. But again, what are we talking? And this goes back to you. Our job is not to do deals. Our job is to identify capital and mobilize the piping for that capital to get through to the end of your project. Seller participation. Sellers are so fatigued because I love this conversation I had last week with the seller who's had a property for 5 years. He's talked to every developer in town, every broker, every planner. He's got like everything. His conversation was, this is the first non-siloed conversation I have had. Everyone tells me their opinion, their position. They cannot understand the business model. They don't understand anything outside of their lane. And what's special for us is we got into this before cottage clusters were there. So we know every single housing type. We know the code. We know what can be built, what the cost is, what you need from a site planning standpoint. And so when I'm talking to a seller whose basis is zero on their property and they can build 16 units there and they're fed up and they're done and they're like, fuck you guys. I don't trust any of you. And then I come in at,
Word.
Yeah. Then I come in at the end and just the first conversation was an hour of just, here is what you have. Here's the market. Here's the timeline. Here's the history. Here's everything. And then he comes out, he's like, wow. And now you talk about, well, what is it that you want to do? And he tells me what he wants to do. It's like, dude, that's really easy. It's really simple. All we do is take what you just told me, back it into a model, and we have a done deal.
Sure.
So now you take that mentality and communicate with the sellers that have the land that people aren't uniquely qualified for. That
So are these JVs with the seller? Is this
no, it'll just be this one will be a JV. So we'll just look at the capital stack.
so
And
he'll bring the lot in.
Yeah.
You guys will go round up the debt and equity, or
yeah, exactly. So we'll get him a good amount of chunk of change in the down payment, right? So we'll form an LLC.
so is he a seller or a partner?
He's a seller. So he will be a seller partner.
So he
or
becomes
he'll
a
just
seller with a lending component, or is he a seller with a JV equity component?
That's what we need to figure out because we just started the conversation. So it
Equity.
could be either,
Do
depending on
equity.
really what he wants to do.
I don't know.
You gotta raise the money anyways. Unless you're bringing the
Well,
money.
it depends on how much he wants to put in is really kind of what matters, right? So if he puts in enough equity, I don't even need a capital partner to do it myself. Does that make does that make sense?
Dane calls this a leveraged buyout.
Leveraged buyout.
Is that your
And that's probably what it
is that your word for it? Or is this different?
No,
Is this a different?
Yeah, it's different. This is different.
So
That's what
anyways,
we're calling
I don't know what the
self-help now.
specifics are, but there's plenty of way. Like all my conversations on land lately have just been about delayed closings, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And no one else is offering cash right now.
So do you feel like this market is ripe?
Yeah.
I mean, especially for creativity and the type of deals that you're looking to do.
Especially if you believe the sentiment that I do, which is the Fed's not going to be aggressive. And so the capital of liquidity is not going to be flowing to land, right? That's kind of like the last place liquidity flows to because it's the most dangerous and the most risky. But there's lenders out there, and if you have a track record, they will lend to you, right? So if we can get creative on how we access the land, then we entitle it. So now you force appreciate it in the entitlement process. Now you make it desirably lendable. Now you have the magnet for the capital to then get the deal done, and then once it's done, you're stabilized and moving forward.
You remember the Michael Hamilton episode?
Yeah.
Where he was doing like leases, right?
Yeah.
With a purchase option built in.
The 1031s. Yeah. So he'd sell land on to 1031s and then get a lease so he controlled it.
Yeah. I think it was just a matter of like, let's tie it up at a given price, but not have to buy it until we're ready to buy it. And then and be able to basically land bank without having to put a bunch of cash in, and then having the opportunity to let them contribute that land in at that value at the time they go for the construction loan. Am I saying that right?
You're right.
Yeah.
So you can do that with sellers. He even took that another step, which was take the seller out, bring a 1031 buyer in. So they bought it.
Yeah.
He's done both.
He's done both.
Yeah, he's done both.
For
It's
a seller that may not be open to that
Right.
idea, you could bring in a 1031, let them land their exchange in the land, and then lease option it from them.
Yeah. So here's where it's different in the marketplace now. So
where is it different in the marketplace?
I'm trying to think of the financing on that land component piece. What works really well for these types of projects are properties with houses on them. And so where you have this capital that initially came into the fold early on, the early adopter of capital wasn't land capital. It was flipping capital. Because you had a house there, you go get a flipping loan, but actually do a development deal. And so now I look at it from the standpoint of developer terms, right? So developer terms went away. The first wave of buying these cottage cluster and middle housing land, it was flipping terms and it was cash.
The flipping terms is on a pretty short timeline. You can do it. You can use that as developer money.
If you're really good.
I mean, maybe while you're working on it, it's under escrow.
So, well, if there's an existing house there and you can, the condo conversion's your model, you can get that done in 6 months if you're good. And then you exit.
That sounds risky.
It's super risky. That's what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah,
so
that's the problem with developing is you can be really good, but time is
that's
still
90% versus 75%.
And a lot of it's just out of your control, right? I mean, there's this thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
The market,
time
you're being,
piece is out of your control.
The market's opinion is out of your control. What happens between when you buy it to when you sell it is out of your control.
To me, like anytime you bring the city in or the county in and you're relying on them for timelines, this is what we always say about lining up the right debt with the right project.
Yeah.
You never want to line up a loan that's got a clock ticking on it where you're playing hot potato and then you're relying on somebody else's timeline to tell you, sure, we'll get that done in 3 months and it takes a year or whatever. Right?
And that's why developer terms are out there. That's why developers...
So tell me what developer terms are. How does that work?
It's just delayed closings or seller financing or options.
So you have a loan that has extensions baked in.
Yeah, all you're saying is look, your dirt, you think it's worth 5, I think it's worth 3. I can make it worth 5. I need to put 50 into it. We'll agree at 350. We'll get you a little bit more than what I want to do. We're just not going to close. I'm going to put 10 grand in here and 5 there and 8 here and 9 here. At the end of the day, I've got 60 to 80 grand in it. Now it's worth the 5 or the 6 because I've entitled it. I've taken risk out of it, right? So now it's entitled. It's worth more because risk is gone.
Sure.
So now you go get your loan, you cash them out then. So you wait to cash them out once you've solidified the deal by removing the risk. And the problem with this business model is when there's houses involved and lenders are dying to give you money, capital originally was cash to the seller. And so the ability to get developer terms was very difficult. And now because of a lot of developers have effed up, the ability to get developer terms is coming back.
So you're saying on your offer, you're offering developer terms, meaning the seller is going to stay in escrow with you while you work on entitlement.
Correct.
So that you take the risk out.
Correct.
And you close once you're able to know that you can build what you want to build.
Yeah. So, and there's still risk, but think of it this way. I can write a 6+ figure check and all this money and the 60 grand
and not be able to build anything.
Yeah. Or I can write the $60,000 check over time
Sure.
and pull out.
And the risk is you get to the end, you don't get entitlements and you walk from 60 grand.
Right.
Instead of being stuck with a, $350,000, $400,000 piece of land you can't build on.
Right. Yeah.
But if it had a house on it,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the other thing is like a covered land play or buying something that intrinsically has the value. It has a house, it's on a lot, you're paying $350. Like, oh, if I could raise the house and put in a cottage cluster, it's worth way more. But if I can't, worst case scenario, I can just throw some lipstick on the house, sell it for $400, and move on with life.
And that's what makes this such a really cool model, is because you have so much value in that existing house.
Yeah, there's already equity. There's already income.
Yeah. Well, here's an example. So what I just got into escrow, I really wanted to pay $600 for it, but I wrote a check or agreed to $650, or else it was going on the market. The house is worth $650. The problem is no one will buy. They've tried to sell it for $800 and $750, took it off the market, put money into it, added a bath, and now I'm buying it for $650. It's just on a huge lot, and a homeowner isn't going to pay an extra $200,000
For the big lot.
For the big lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we can make it a smaller lot and sell it for the same price.
Yeah.
And so now, if you get the dirt for your entitlement costs, so now so if, like, for this example, what I'm figuring from this model is we can build out that entire thing, add 6 cottage clusters, have 7 units. Now you have to leave $400,000 in it, and it's not a great deal. But if you sell the house off, and now you lower your basis into the land, now you're in a much better basis on the builds.
Sure.
So there's the different ways to do the business model as well. And so, to answer your question longly, the ego thing right now is I feel uniquely qualified. I have the desire and the capital behind me, and the options in front of me, because I've been talking to so many sellers. And so we are like, the inventory's there, the capital's there, the experience is there. Now it's just executing and pushing it down the table.
Be careful. Last time you got this confident, you came back in and you're like, hey,
Very
guys,
sad.
I got kicked in the nuts.
Sad.
Did I
Sad.
do that?
He was sad. Mike was sad for a couple days.
But
Oh, yeah.
actually, part of it was the care facility, I think. Things kind of went sideways for me.
At the same
Yeah.
time.
But you put it back together.
He rekindled that
Rekindled
fire. Yeah.
Because I had seller participation. You don't have that with a bank, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to put something together when you've got everybody working together. I love it.
Yeah.
Any other deals we want to talk about before we wrap it up?
What do we even have?
Oh,
We're doing deals.
I think in the last...
we have all the same.
I was
deals,
listening
though.
to the episode that just came out, and I think we actually fired you, Dane, on that episode because Mike won a deal that we were chasing.
Dude, you
Oh,
can.
more
and
like-
he outplayed you on it.
Yeah, outplayed me hard.
But
Yeah.
maybe not, because it backfired. So
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I know. I knew what it was worth. That's why I offered to pay that amount. But whatever.
we offered the same price.
It backfired. That deal's not holding.
Well, I'm putting it together. What we thought was 2 pieces of property. Title thinks it's one.
Oh.
So I went in.
Wait, is this your bomb you were talking about?
Yeah, this is the bomb.
Title's usually right.
I don't think they are. I really don't. I think
No,
we
I
got
thought
the
it was too
document
as well.
I think we got the document last
Wait a
night
second.
that proves it.
You think?
I mean, it looks on paper, it is 2 properties, 2 different tax IDs, 2 different legal descriptions, 2 tax valuations, 2 tax payments, 2 tax statements. You see the short plat, you see like you have all the drawings. I can see everything.
So is title saying it's 2 separate tax lots, but only one legal lot?
Yes,
The
there was
differentiation between legal lot and tax lot.
You can separate lots through an actual land use process, and now the county agrees with you. Historically, you could split lots through a quiet title process, and then the county doesn't recognize it. So, title's of the opinion that they did the quiet title process, and at some time along the way, taxes got separated.
And so it's 2 different things, though. The legal lot and the tax lot are 2 different.
Exactly. How you get taxed is not necessarily what you have.
You see this in a lot of
Yeah.
jurisdictions like Albany and other places where they've done a bunch of this, where it looks like you have multiple tax lots, but they're all on one legal.
Luckily, we started the public record request right when we got into escrow, so we have all this information flowing in. So I can see building permit. I can see everything. It's like, okay, he might have not dotted his I's and crossed the T's, but he went down this process. And so in COVID, I almost bought a property that was a legal lot of record. Outside of the city, didn't have the zoning to split it. They illegally split it. There's an orchard, like a huge business being operated. Well, that's not legal. So what we had to do, it took 30 months. We had to annex both properties into the city together. So I had to take 2 properties, both of them that I don't own, and get the owners to sign off to combine them into one property in the city, just so that I could then go through the division process and 1 year later separate them back to where they were.
You guys can't run that simultaneously up there?
No, not in Gresham. Yeah, Gresham was the worst. But the beauty of all this is you look super competent to the broker, right? Like, dude, here's a huge bomb. This is a problem. You know we need 2 pieces of leverage. Everyone does. But guess what? I have all this documentation. And then he's like, "Geez, his mind's overwhelming." So then you write a really good summary.
You talking about on Moreland?
Yeah, this is Moreland.
That was a very good broker on that.
Very good broker.
Yeah.
But like he's thankful because I wrote the summary that he can just say, look, here's everything you need to know. This is where we're at. Here's the code. Here's what title says. Here's what they're doing. Here's the process. Here's the timeline we can expect. Here's their experience in going down this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
All right. What did we learn from Mike?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It was good.
Dane is still on the Swedish timeline.
Do you need to learn anything as long as you get entertained?
That's great.
It's like
no, it's
10 p.m. for you right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, you're talking about a lot of what we're doing down here.
Yeah.
That was why I was it was just.
You're bored.
I wasn't bored. It's just because it's good information. If you can, if they can process it. Just because it took me like 2 years.
Hey,
no.
I'm sorry. He did not mean that. He did not offend you. We have the smartest, most intelligent audience of all real estate podcasts.
And you got a dingbat host.
Yeah.
Because it took me so long to figure out all of the things that you just talked about. If you can glean a couple pieces of information out of that, then awesome. It was, it worked. But land development is so hard.
It's hard.
First time I read city code, I was like, we can build whatever we want whenever we want. And then I kept reading it and I kept talking to like people with the city and man, just get beat up.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah. What is legally permissible is not always physically possible.
Or financially feasible.
And then if it is physically possible, it probably
might
isn't
not
financially
be
feasible.
or legally permissible.
Sometimes
you skip that one and then...
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a big piece of land. I could put something there, and I have the money to do it, but the city won't let me.
Development takes a lot of time, and that time creates a lot of risk, and you better hang on. I mean, there's a reason why not very many people are developers, I think, especially not on bigger projects.
I don't even think it is time. It's obviously time, but the biggest issue is that it's time that you have no control over.
Yeah.
Well, you might go through 3 different points of contact at the city before you finish your project.
Yeah. No,
that's true because turnover. Yeah.
There's a guy who, a client, I don't know. I've met with him a couple times and he owns a bunch of stuff up here. I mean, I bet his portfolio is 150 million and like no partners on it. And he's working on a development project with the city of Salem. He's been doing it for like 4 years. And he's developed a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And he was just like, the rules have changed twice since like I've put in for permits 4 times or like 3 times.
Because the city's vision
come back
changes,
and then the city's vision has changed. And like, it's not his only project. So that's part of it too, is like, he's probably not, and he's older, but he's so sick of it. And he's good. He's good.
If you went
he still doesn't have
you go to
control.
three people at the city and you ask them the same question, you might get 3 different answers.
Because it's interpretation.
And
code is interpretation.
You might. I was talking to a guy yesterday. He says, "Hey, I've got an email from the city says I can do what I want to do with this property." So I bought it, and as soon as we closed, I went back and I said, "Okay, this is what I want to do." And lo and behold, the guy who sent him the email doesn't work at the city anymore, which is what always happens. And the new guy says, "No, that's not how it reads. You got to build this structure and do all these things before you can do what you want to do." Yesterday I said we had a ribbon cutting in Astoria. The mayor showed up. Well, he's been the mayor for a couple of years in Astoria. Guess what he was before that? He was a planner on the planning division.
He's vested.
He was probably one of the people involved in the project, and now he's the mayor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so these people move around, they do other things, and some of them retire, some are upwardly mobile, and you're just not always working with the same people.
Yeah.
You got to be super, super careful that you get things done in writing, and I mean officially in writing, because you get a roller coaster. Development to me is I think the hardest way to make money in real estate. And the riskiest way to make
it's the riskiest.
It's also the most money,
most lucrative.
Yes. So those that are successful at development make more money than most people in real estate. However, I would just throw this out there. I don't know if this is a legitimate stat, but I would say the majority of people who try development fail miserably. So be careful if you're out there trying to be a developer. I think everybody likes that word. I want to be a developer. I don't know what that's all about. Maybe that's an ego thing. Like I want.
Dude, I have a funny story about that.
Tell us.
2001, right before September 11, I would go to this bagel shop.
Was Dane born yet?
I was kicking.
Yeah. So Bagel Land on Northeast Fremont for those in Portland.
Bagel Land.
I live close to Bagel Land in the Spanish Mansion, which it wasn't known for being a wholesome home. It was more known for having large parties and ragers. And so we go to the bagel shop and like debrief the night prior of all the fun we had. And one time I was in the bagel shop and I was kind of done with that life. And I told my friend, like, I'm going to be a developer. And they fucking spit out their coffee and started laughing at me.
Why? Because they didn't believe you could do it?
Well, what's a developer? Guy who pushes dirt around out in the suburbs, right? So I didn't even know what the definition of it was, but I had this aha moment when I was driving by Bagel Land, smelt the bagels, like, oh, I remember that. And I remember the story. I was driving to my fourplex. It was being built like 50 feet away, 80 feet away. And I'm like, I'm a fucking developer.
I did it.
I'm a developer.
It's funny.
It's funny how the world kind of shows you those things. And it's funny because the day I went to that fourplex, the next day I was driving out to Bend to go talk about buying 40 acres and actually doing development. So it was like that day just, Bagel Land. I made a statement.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I am not a developer, but if you read the Daily Astorian,
Then he is
developer.
He's the biggest developer in
Gabe Johansson.
Astoria.
Biggest developer.
That's what I call him.
I did not develop anything, but I did give the speech at the ribbon cutting.
It's true.
So, and I gave Mark credit.
It's a good speech.
Mark's the developer.
Yeah, Mark said you guys need to get your ass.
For the record, Landon's
Landon,
the developer.
dude, Landon gets around. I had a conversation about Landon the other day. He's nice. I really enjoy him.
Landon's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice gentleman.
I'll recognize him on the pickleball court.
Those guys are pros.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
big brains.
Landon
on those
used to like,
shoulders.
I don't know if he moved. I think he moved into the house he built, but we were like blocks away from each other.
Up in West Salem.
That's where he moved, but he was in South Salem.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Oh, the new house isn't with.
Yeah, the new house. He was.
All right, we're
All
digressing.
right,
let's go.
We're
Get
gonna
out of here.
We're gonna thank again Skyline Builders for being the sponsor of this episode, and we love you guys. We're the Deal Junkies. Please share us, like us, tell people about us, and we're trying to get the word out so that we can afford to buy a new podcast studio because we're trying to build a new podcast studio.
We're trying to make everybody's voice.
Should we do like a GoFundMe? or
sound the
something?
same?
Dude, that'd be
no,
amazing.
we should definitely not do that.
We'll figure it out. We'll find the money.
But that
somewhere.
would give us more money for deals. We're not take away money for deals.
If you want to pay us to be our sponsor, let us know. Maybe we'll get into business.
Oh yeah,
We'll actually have some paid sponsors. You guys will have to listen to commercials.
that'd be something. All
All
right.
All right, guys.
See you
Thanks
guys
for
next
listening.
time.
We'll see you next time.